Welcome to Dhamma on the Sidewalk. Today's Dhamma Capsule. Hello and welcome to this Dhamma Capsule on generosity. Generosity in Pali is called Dana. And while in the Northern School of Buddhism, there is a mention of 6 paramitas, in the Southern School of Buddhism, there are 10. And the difference is just as how these qualities are organized. But eventually, they all come back to the same point. And Dana is the first one of a noble quality. There are many ways to express generosity in one's life. I'm currently traveling in India on pilgrimage, and I'm in Kerala, and I've met Tony. Tony is an interesting man from Australia who has had a particular way to express generosity in his life through travel. He became self-aware of becoming generous one day. There's something else with Tony, is that he has a very particular way to blend it with fearlessness and curiosity. So I'm not saying anything more, just let's listen to Tony. Tony, you're from Brisbane?
I'm from Brisbane.
And we are meeting in Fort Kochi at the Commons Friend's house.
Yes. Yeah.
Whom you know from Brisbane as well.
That's right. Together. We work together. Brisbane is not that big.
Right.
No matter what area you work in, eventually you meet everybody. It's one of the nice things about the town, but it's also one of the limitations for many people.
It's your first time in India.
Yes.
It's your first time in Kerala, God's own country. You know about this.
Are you trying to get me to say something?
I'm trying to get you to say something about God's own country and your connection to travel. And you have been confined, or at least you haven't been out in the world since after COVID. This is your first time out after COVID.
Yes.
And so out of Australia.
Yes, but even inside Australia, I've travelled minimally. So I feel like I've been hidden away for 4 years.
And so what I thought interesting, as your first time out of Australia after COVID, and your minimal movement after COVID. So you came to India. There's a very strong pull of curiosity in traveling. So it's not obviously your first time in Asia and in the world. So I'd like you to just give us a sense a bit of what's the spirit that you put into your travel? What's your mindset when you travel out of the box, putting your mindset upside down? Okay. You have a very strong sense of curiosity and exploration.
This happened very early in my life, I mean. Mum used to come in and sit by my bed at night. Then she'd come over and sit next to me, and she'd lean into me and she'd say, "Never get married. Travel. You must travel. Don't ever get married." Clearly she was unhappy.
So the seed was planted.
Very early. Good. And I ran away from home when I was 4. I was off to look. And that was encouraged by me, by Mum anyway. So I always questioned everything. I really based my life on a bit of a theory that if there's this much, if I've found this much, then surely and very clearly there must be more. And I want to know what it is.
More and something different. Probably.
Yes, and different. I'm not looking to reconfirm everything. What I love about traveling is that it turns my life absolutely upside down. I think I know everything. I've always been a bit like that. And so the best thing I can do is to go on where I think I'm going to be uncomfortable, or certainly out of my depth. I'm monolingual. So I go to places where I have no concept of the language. I can't add up, so I don't do the money very well either. So I have to become conversant in other ways, whether it's verbal or non-verbal.
So establishing rapport with people in different ways than the ones that are known to you and that you've been surrounded with. And then you went to places also with a mind of, I would say, challenging, not just going through and flowing and exploring, but just challenging yourself. You mentioned being an atheist.
Yes.
And going and challenging yourself for some reason to go to Muslim countries to explore what there. What were you challenging yourself in that sense?
Because it sits there as a fascinating country. It's mythical and maybe a bit initially initiated by dreadful old Hollywood movies and stuff like that. But I've always had an interest in difference. I've felt that this is not the limit of who I am. There's got to be more, and I want to know what it is. I want to be different. I want to understand more. The way I think surely can't be the only way. I know it's not, because, you know, I'm a self-declared atheist and very happily have been my entire life. It's something that I knew inherently. But what I also knew was that this is not the only way to live. And I want to see how that impacts on other people's lives. So yes, going to Morocco, Tunisia and Egypt turns all of that around very quickly, particularly if you're there at Ramadan, when nothing's open for anybody else, even though it's their touristy spots.
And what was the reaction at home when in Australia when you were going to those places?
Oh, I have one friend, she says, I know you're going on holiday and I know where you're going and I don't want you to go. I'm frightened. But then she can't help but contact me. How's it going? What have you seen? You know, but she wouldn't do it herself. So vicariously, with me putting myself out on the precipice as such, and I've never really been in trouble. In all the travelling that I've done, particularly, you know, prior to COVID, I never really got into a lot of trouble. I'm tall and I'm big, and I guess in some instances a little bit imposing. I'm a man and I'm a white man, and therefore inherently in comes that awful thing of white privilege, because majority of these countries at some point have been marauded and taken over and colonized by one form of European civilization or another.
And how have you become self-aware or made the rapport with people in other places, being aware of your whiteness, of being a white man? How have that impacted your travels?
One of the things that I've not done is been backward. You know, I haven't taken a step back and go, oh, I'll just observe. I haven't come to observe. I don't want to hang out with white tourists and go on package tours. I don't want that. I want to be in the mix. In the midst, yes. Where I'm outside the central conversation, because I don't know the language. But I'm included by their generosity as being as good and worthy of being, and sharing food and all those things that are important. And that brought you to go and decide to go and live in Cambodia. Yeah. So you lived in Cambodia for about 9 years. I went in and out of Cambodia, but I finally lived there. And that was a whole different. It's a thing that grew. I was 60 and sitting in Malaysia, and I felt, and it was my birthday, and nobody contacted me, and I was appalled. Then I realised nobody knew where I was. My friends in Australia had no idea. I just packed my bags and went, because that's what I do. And I went, how selfish I have become, and a man of white privilege with too much money, too much spare time, and I'm rather appalled at myself for being a selfish person, because I never thought that I was, but I felt I was at that time. So there's a sense of self-awareness on how these travels and how this connection with other culture is building up in you. And I hear a generosity of the heart in the being welcome, trying to be welcome, and kind of shedding this, what you call selfishness, which actually I hear you talking a lot about going forward, which has a strong flavor of fearlessness. So these two things go together for you? That's what I hear when I hear you. I've not thought of myself overtly selfish throughout my entire life. At that moment when I went, it suddenly realised I do this all the time. I pack up and go when I want to go, because I've lived that way all my life. I don't have the time.
But always going back. So you
but
always
I return to my home.
In Australia?
Yes, in Australia. I've tried to live overseas a couple of times, and I've understood that long term I don't belong there. In my house that I've now had for longer than any residence in my entire life, that's my home. People come to my house and they don't want to leave. I'm glad I've created that space. And they go, it's just so full of you. I'm glad they feel that way. And that's stuff that I've gone out and found and I brought back and I bring into my life because I belong there at this point in time. I'm not saying I may not trip over, but I always go into a new place very open-hearted,
so
and
open-minded,
and ready to absorb everything I can and go, I wonder if I could live here, or this would be exciting. And I spend as much time in the company of the locals. I don't live in a privileged white hotel. Yes.
You're a traveller.
I throw my bag in a room, close the door behind me, and I'm back out on the street as quickly as I can be. Because there's so much to get in the amount of time I've given myself to go. And I want to know everything.
I keep hearing this unconditional generosity in the way you establish your rapport with the country, with the people. You set it up as being amidst people, but with a generous, open-minded.
I love that you said that.
You've changed a lot.
Yes.
By traveling.
And thank you. My friends have said it occasionally, but I think I've brushed that aside. Well, thank you. I'm glad you perceive me as being open-hearted and generous. They're probably two of the nicest things anybody could say to me. Because I do believe I'm open-hearted.
The challenging of going forward, and it doesn't become a challenge anymore when we are open-hearted, because to be in the midst requires that open-mindedness. It's not possible to be in the midst and not maintain our very strict views and opinion about certain things.
I'd like to think I don't hide.
I don't hide.
I don't
That's
hide.
A nice way.
I have no secrets because I can't remember. I don't tell lies. I can't remember from one, so why would I bother? I want to get everything I can. It's a little bit selfish in that way, but I think people see and look in. I don't think they see filters because I'm more often than not welcomed. Somebody sees me and it's like they know who I am and that I'm okay, I'm safe. And I love that. That's what I want. I want to get a real touch, a smell, a feel, a taste of where I am, because I'm going to take that back and see how that fits and how what I get from that, how that changes me and makes me better.
It makes you want a better person.
I hope I am. I hope I keep getting better. My life's not finished, unlike many other people my age who've been pushed into retirement, who've gone, oh, well, I'll just sit it out now. There's no way I'll do that.
Yeah. There's a fearless connection with the outer world. And what would you have as a of message, or from the heart out, something for what's really the spirit of traveling? Risk
yourself. What could be the worst? You can stay at home and die, or you can go out and die. That's going to happen at some point in time.
Anyway,
in the middle, make the damn best that you've got every second. Risk yourself. Risk at every chance that you get. And you become bolder. You don't become bad. If, as you say, you sense that I have generosity. I don't come with avarice. I don't come with jealousy. I don't come with hatred. I'm not looking to mock difference in any way. I want to know about it. I want to see if there's something there that I can have, that I don't have, because I'm a lesser person, until such time as I can take your gift and have it, and I'll give you back whatever you want, because
so
that's the exchange.
Yeah, there's an exchange. Yeah, yes. It's an exchange. So travel is an exchange, but something needs to be dropped there. So there's probably a sense of the strong views or the strong opinions.
I see a lot of people walking around with fear. So, they've tightened their shoulders.
You mean in abroad?
Western people,
yeah.
My own colour, in various situations where they're afraid of where they are. I don't want to look from an air-conditioned capsule.
Yeah, there's a trailblazing sort of.
I hope I've still got fire.
Fire,
You know,
yeah.
I hope I've got fire. I don't want it to go out yet.
So I would think that this interview I could title it "Fearless Exploration."
With a touch of generosity.
With a touch. Oh, I like that.
I love that somebody has considered that I am. Because
that's the first thing I heard from you.
Yes, and,
really?
and I'm so flattered by that.
So we'll wrap it up?
Yes, we will.
We'll wrap it up?
Otherwise, you know that I could keep going.
Yeah. It's the first time in India. Or what's your insight? How has India changed?
I love Kerala.
Mm.
And I know that it's ideologically different from the rest because of its isolation. And I love that. And you can sense it everywhere. There is a generosity of spirit here. But I have been to Mumbai. And there the people were very friendly and stuff. But why would you live there, really, honestly? You would only live there if you can't get out. And I was not heartbroken. That's their life. I'm not there to judge that.
You know the expression for Kerala that the practice is called compassionate communism.
Yes.
Compassionate communism instills a sense of generosity, but also a sense of openness to the other. In a state, well, in India is very diverse, and Kerala in that sense doesn't differ. There are lots of Catholics, a lot of Muslim, and lots of
there's Jewish,
Hindu, and then there's Jewish.
Yes.
So there's a lot of religious melting, and
so difference.
Difference, but also in the compassionate communism is really like support. They have chosen the non-armed, the non-armed fight. And they have, so the word compassion in front of communism also means this is a very strong community peer support, not just peer support as a family or as an extended family.
So it's broader than that.
It's broader than that.
I know my view of when I leave India is going to be quite narrow in that there's Kerala, Mumbai, and next week I go north.
Right.
But that's to see the big tourist attractions amongst other tourists, and I will be travelling in a party group. So that'll be interesting to see how I handle that.
Yeah.
But I need to see as much as I can, and that was the best way of doing all of this.
Yeah, sometimes it's not so much the form, it's what you bring to the form. You can always step out and step in, and if it makes your travel.
It was advised that by the time I get there, I will probably be a little more tired than I think I'm going to be after 6 or 7 weeks of finding my own way everywhere.
Right.
Just go in and be taken care of for 9 days. It's only 9 days, thing is, and then you come back. So it'll be a fairly narrow view, but at least I won't be fighting myself every day to get through everything, to get to see those things. I'm going to be coerced and pushed there to it. So I'm quite happy with that. And then when I come back, I return home to Brisbane a few days later, but I still come back here to have a few more days.
That's nice. Anyway, I wanted to thank you.
A pleasure.
And I'm humbled that I've noticed the generosity. I think there is a lot of unconditional generosity, so keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.